India was once a vibrant subcontinent, a mosaic of kingdoms, cultures, and immense wealth. Its spices and textiles were coveted worldwide, its cities bustling, its traditions ancient. From the Himalayas to the southern coasts, India's diversity and riches were legendary. Across the seas, Britain, a small island with a powerful navy, was rising, hungry for trade and global influence. Tales of India's treasures fueled British ambition, making the subcontinent the ultimate prize. India's empires like the fading Mughals stood in stark contrast to Britain's aggressive industrial energy. The British saw opportunity. India, a land of tradition, faced a force driven by commerce and conquest. Their meeting was not of equals but a collision, one ancient and complex, the other modern and relentless. This encounter would reshape both lands. India's societies would be transformed, Britain's empire elevated. The story of British rule in India is one of ambition, strategy, and exploitation. But it began not with armies, but with merchants, seeking profit, not power. The stage was set for a transformation that would echo through centuries. The first act, the arrival of the British East India Company. On the last day of 1600, Queen Elizabeth I granted a charter to London merchants, the British East India Company. Their mission break into the spice trade dominated by the Portuguese and Dutch. These early British traders were not conquerors but businessmen risking all for pepper, cotton, and profit. Arriving in India, they found a crowded field, Portuguese, Dutch, and French rivals already entrenched. The British were newcomers, seeking permission from Mughal emperors to set up small trading posts or factories. These fortified warehouses at Surat, Madras, Bombay, and Calcutta were tiny footholds on a vast land. Company officials learned local languages, navigated court politics, and built commercial ties. For years, their power was limited, dependent on the goodwill of Indian rulers. But as the Mughal Empire weakened and India fragmented, the company saw opportunity. With its private army and financial resources, it was poised to exploit the chaos. The company's commercial presence began to morph into political power. What started as trade would soon become conquest. The seeds of empire had been sown. As Mughal authority crumbled, India fractured into rival kingdoms. The British East India Company mastered the art of divide and conquer, exploiting local conflicts for gain. They offered military support to one side, gaining trade concessions and territory in return. The French were their main European rivals, backing opposing Indian rulers in proxy wars. The Carnatic Wars taught the company to combine European discipline with Indian sepoy manpower. Victory after victory tipped the balance of power toward the British. The turning point, the Battle of Plassey, 1757. Outnumbered, Robert Clive struck a secret deal with Mir Jafar, who betrayed the Nawab of Bengal. The British won not by force but by conspiracy, installing a puppet ruler and seizing Bengal's wealth. Plassey marked the true start of British territorial conquest in India. The company's influence now extended far beyond trade. India's fate was being rewritten. After Plassey, the East India Company became a ruling power, not just a trading firm. With Bengal's tax revenues, it expanded its private army and subdued rival states. The company imposed subsidiary alliances, forcing Indian rulers to host and fund British troops, stripping them of real power. India's famed textile industry was dismantled. British policies turned India into a supplier of raw materials and a market for British goods. Weavers lost their livelihoods, and the subcontinent was deindustrialized. Corruption flourished. Company officials amassed fortunes while millions suffered. The Great Bengal Famine of 1770, worsened by harsh tax policies, killed millions. The wealth drained from India fueled Britain's Industrial Revolution. Company rule brought profit to Britain but devastation to India. The cost of empire was paid in Indian lives. By the mid-1800s, resentment against company rule was boiling over. Aggressive expansion, economic exploitation, and cultural interference bred anger. The doctrine of lapse, heavy taxes, and ruined artisans fueled discontent. The final spark sepoys, Indian soldiers in the company's army, were forced to use rifle cartridges rumored to be greased with pig and cow fat, offensive to both Muslims and Hindus. In 1857, sepoys in Meerut rebelled, freeing prisoners and marching to Delhi, where they declared the Mughal emperor their leader. The uprising spread across northern and central India, becoming a mass rebellion. The British responded with brutal force, retaking cities and exacting harsh reprisals. By 1858 the revolt was crushed, but the East India Company's rule was shattered. The Great Uprising was a turning point, ending company rule and forcing Britain to rethink its control. The rebellion failed, but it changed everything. The British Crown would now rule India directly. The age of the company was over. A new era was about to begin. India's struggle for freedom had truly begun. The 1857 rebellion shocked Britain into action. The East India Company was dissolved. The British Crown took direct control. Queen Victoria became Empress of India, ushering in the era of the British Raj. The Raj restructured the army, favoring loyal groups and avoiding interference in religion. British rule relied on alliances with Indian princes and landowners, creating a class invested in colonial power. Infrastructure, railways, telegraphs, legal systems, was built to serve British interests, not Indian welfare. Agriculture shifted to cash crops, causing recurring famines. Education was limited, creating a small elite but leaving most Indians illiterate. The Raj unified India politically, but for the benefit of the rulers, not the ruled. Exploitation continued, and the seeds of resistance grew. The very tools of British control, railways, English education, became engines of Indian nationalism. A new generation of leaders inspired by Western ideals began to demand rights and self-rule. The Indian National Congress, formed in 1885, would lead the long struggle for independence. Gandhi transformed the movement, using non-violent resistance to unite millions. Mass protests, boycotts, and civil disobedience weakened British resolve. After 2 world wars, Britain's grip faltered. In 1947, India gained independence, but at the cost of partition, violence, and mass displacement. The legacy of British rule is complex democracy and railways, but also division and trauma. The story of British India is a lesson in how ambition and exploitation can reshape nations. Its echoes still shape the subcontinent today. History's scars and its lessons remain.